it's really important to use the humor wisely. If your boss is really angry with you, this is not the time to joke.
I feel like you're speaking to me right now, giving me some life lessons that maybe other people might appreciate. Okay, go on.
If you mess up, you can't tell a joke. You got to own up to it and correct it.
Mm-hmm.
But a little bit of silliness really helps to lubricate the social interaction, and there is some game playing. You know, who's the head chief in the office, who can tell who what to do, kind of thing. And to negotiate your position vis-a-vis the other folks, and to negotiate with that, and a bowl of chocolate kisses on your workspace, and a couple of action figures dancing around your screen, kind of help. It sets the mood. We're not going to be so serious that it detracts from the progress we're trying to make. We're going to be serious enough to make progress, but we're going to do it with a smile.
Hi, I'm Roger Kastner, and welcome to the What Do You Know to Be True podcast. In these conversations, I talk with ordinary people about their extraordinary skill, their superhero power, and the meaningful impact it has on others. The goal is not to try to emulate or hack our way to a new talent. Instead, the intention is to learn more about their experience with their superhero power, and in doing so, maybe we can learn something about the special talent in each of us that makes us unique. This conversation is with Marge Kastner, my mom, and it's about her superhero power of silliness. I took the opportunity of her 80th birthday party to ask her about her superhero power, and it was no surprise that her extraordinary talent is silliness. What was surprising is how much thought she had put into the why, when, and how of her superhero power. From driving around in the 80s with a bumper sticker that said, "I'd rather be mud wrestling," to her recent passion for literally wrestling in the mud, removing trash in the marshlands near her home, my mom still embodies a deep belief in the value of silliness. If you're ready, let's dive in. Hi, Mom.
Hi, honey. How are you doing?
Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you.
So what's important for us to know about Marge Kastner?
I really want to enjoy life. I really love humor, and I enjoy making things and doing things. I'm very happy to be retired. I had enjoyed my work. I loved it, but I really enjoy silliness.
I'm really excited to have this conversation for a couple reasons. One, it's your birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
80.
Yeah.
You don't seem, all of a sudden, you don't seem happy about that.
Well, I'm not happy about it. I mean, 80 is old.
Whose voice is that?
Mine.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is this something you've told yourself for a long time?
No, just about a year. When I realized, gads. Yikers.
I have that feeling almost every year. There's that realization of, wow, this is an age I told myself when I was younger felt old.
Yeah.
Do you feel old?
No. I feel 17.
Still.
It's really hard to be 17 in an 80-year-old body.
So I have that to look forward to.
Yeah.
I spoke to my mother-in-law on my 40th birthday.
Yeah.
I spoke to you too, but I spoke to her, and she had said it was around 40 that I started taking care of myself. I started eating well and exercising regularly. And so I said, well, you just recently turned 60. What, is something, what do you tell yourself now? And she says, every day I wake up, I thank the Lord that I'm alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does any of that resonate?
Oh, sure. I figure every day after 70 is a gift, and every day after 80 is a miracle.
Is the idea that every day is a gift, is that new?
No, I thought of it when I turned 70.
Okay, but what about when you turn 60 or 50 or 40?
I still thought I was 17.
Yeah.
And I still have the energy to back that up.
Okay. And now not so much? Not as much?
Well, we started walking around the bay instead of uphill at about 67, 68, maybe 70.
But there is some wind resistance around the bay.
Yeah, I know, but it's not uphill. It's flat. And then we saw the trash, and it gave us a purpose to justify walking on flat land.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that. What when you say when you saw the trash, what do you do with the trash?
Goodness. So there was a lot of trash, and we just started taking it out, and then we met another couple that was doing the same thing, and we joined forces with them, and we got on the nature reserve, and they were very, very pleased, very happy that we were out there picking up trash. And the other couple were volunteers of the year 2014, and we were volunteers of the year in 2015. It was wonderful. It does get us out on public walkways, like around the airport and stuff, and people are thanking us. There's always somebody going by, and at least half of them say, "Wow."
Have you ever seen anyone throw away trash when you're out there picking up trash? Like throw away, like just throw it, like dump stuff in the marsh.
Well, no.
And you, on a typical day that you go out to pick up trash in the marsh,
Yeah.
do you end up with more than a little shopping bag of?
Yeah.
How many bags?
The average is it's about between 6 and 10 of the tall kitchen 30-gallon trash bags. There are bigger bags, but they get too heavy.
Some of the trash is really, really small.
Yeah.
Because when I've been out there with you, sometimes I have my little grabber trying to grab the little tiny pieces of plastic and whatnot. And then there are other times the trash is really big.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of the big trash you go out and pull out of the marsh.
Well, we did pull a surfboard. We pulled out the VC. There's a street called VC Street that leads to one of the areas we have, and it's a torso that had a German beer maid costume on it, and so we brought that back, and a head that was covered with pink nylon tape and a hard hat, so that completed the statue. I took the tape off, and was very disappointed to find that the head had a beard.
Mm-hmm.
But that was fixed by wrapping a scarf around her. Now she's sitting out by her bird feeder as a scarecrow. Yeah.
You guys do pull out a lot of tires.
Yeah.
What's the largest number of tires you've pulled out in one afternoon?
60.
60.
Yeah.
So, people pay a lot of money to go to the gym to move tires around.
Yeah.
You're out there in the marsh. That's a lot of tires, and these are usually full of mud and gunk, and you're getting your CrossFit.
Yeah. Well, we decided not to pull that many out anymore because we were napping solidly for the next 2 or 3 days.
You might pull a hammy a tire.
But that was back when we were in our 60s. We were
so much younger then.
Yeah.
And maybe not as smart.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wisdom comes with age.
Yes.
You have started making art out of the trash that you pull out. Tell us a little bit about that art.
Well, I feel so sorry for the little things we find. I mean, here is a little Mickey Mouse trying to wave, and it's lost its hand and its nose and its toe. And it was some child's beloved toy. It's ruined, it's lost, it's thrown in the mud. So I pick him up and bring him home, and Mickey is going to go into some arrangement. We found 2 Woodies.
From Toy Story?
And the first one I found, I was still volunteering at the refuge, and they had a Christmas party. So I felt so happy that I could wrap Woody up, and give him as a gift to, there was one biologist, she collected the toys, and she was so happy to get a Woody. I felt so good about that. And, a few weeks later, I found another Woody. So he's here in our living room flying an airplane.
And you've actually taken some of the material that you found and created other art, like some of the upcycled, recycled artwork that you've created out of materials that you found in the marsh. What are some of those things?
Well, they're right here. Uh, I have Woody on an airplane trying to reach another Madonna, which sort of says, what are the styles of women? You know, what are the challenges women face, and what do the challenges the men face?
You're missing the little explanatory cards that you see at museums that explain these things, because
Yes.
when I see them, I'm not picking up on the cultural or social nuances of what your pieces are trying to say. So I should be asking questions and not just assuming, oh, these are the toys you found out
Yeah.
on Marge.
Well, you know, art is up to your own interpretation.
Mm-hmm. In the past, you've done art for contests that show up in the San Mateo County Fair.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of Afghans.
Yeah.
And you've entered a couple recycled art contests.
Yeah, Woody was entered.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't win anything.
Oh, poor Woody. Well, and I know a lot of the crocheting that you've done.
Yeah.
The way I remember it, and I could be remembering it incorrectly, but the Afghans, the other crochet work that you did, you were like, it seemed like you were bringing home blue ribbons every year for a little while.
Well,
so you might have got spoiled by early success.
Some kind of ribbon usually, and that was fun. But COVID kind of put an end to all that. One of my presentations was, why is there trash? There was a environmental section to the fair, and so it was, the problem was trash and why, and I think the home and garden page made it into that one, along with open trash containers with their lids up, and a truck with a big plastic thing flying out of it, and it told the story of trash happens.
Mm-hmm.
And people come up to us and try to ask, what do you think is the cause of this? Do people just throw things out? And I said, we all lose a chip bag. It is so easy to lose a napkin or a plastic cup. Things just blow around.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're looking for someone to blame that's not them.
Sure.
And mainly, the homeless. No, people just drop things. If you look along the side of the freeway, along the side of the road, you see trash. And they can't keep up with it. If it blows into the street sewer, it blows into the stream. We have maybe 6 million people living in the watershed for the bay.
Trash happens.
Trash happens.
That's a very empathetic way to look at it, because I could see pulling out tires and pulling out garbage bags full of trash, and then coming home, and then all the aches and pains that come with it, and the longer naps than you wanted, and maybe not getting things done. There could be almost a little bitterness after a while, but that might.
It started out that way. When we first, oh my goodness, look at that, look at that. And then I said, look, this is taking the joy out of it. I'm happy to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to be by the water. My favorite thing is walking along the shoreline. Always have been. We lived at the beach. We loved it. To be upset about people that drop their chip bag, for Pete's sake. It happens.
Yeah.
And there is joy in picking it up. So why diminish that?
You have a lot of stories about humor and silliness and not taking everything so darn seriously. From the days when you were working.
Yeah.
What's some of those stories that you could retell here about the silliness and the humor and the not taking things so seriously?
Well, it's really important to use the humor wisely. If your boss is really angry with you, this is not the time to joke.
I feel like you're speaking to me right now, giving me some life lessons that maybe other people might appreciate. Okay, go on.
If you mess up, you can't tell a joke. You got to own up to it and correct it.
Mm-hmm.
But a little bit of silliness really helps to lubricate the social interaction, and there is some game playing. Who's the head chief in the office? Who can tell who what to do, kind of thing. And to negotiate your position vis-a-vis the other folks, and to negotiate with them, That and a bowl of chocolate kisses on your workspace and a couple of action figures dancing around your screen kind of help. It sets the mood. We're not going to be so serious that it detracts from the progress we're trying to make. We're going to be serious enough to make progress, but we're going to do it with a smile.
And I know you also did student advising
Yeah,
in a similar role.
yeah,
And this is a very serious, prestigious school
yeah.
with students that try to live up to that seriousness and prestige.
Oh dear. I had one student call me and said, my professor's going to give me an A minus. Should I drop the class?
You would share with me that you would give a certain type of advice to a lot of these students.
Well, what we were told to advise is search for your dream. Your freshman year is your chance to explore what you want to do with the rest of your life. Choose wisely. And one fellow said, I really enjoy I'm announcing for the basketball game, and I really enjoy that. My parents want me to be, a doctor, but I really want to do it. This is your chance. You're not going to get another one, as good.
Yeah.
You don't have to be serious all the time.
So speaking of, your superhero power is silliness.
Yeah.
What or who inspired your superhero power of silliness?
And yeah, it was my father. You met him, you know him.
Big Duncan.
Big Duncan. He had a silly streak in him that was just fantastic. My mother, on the other hand, didn't have a funny bone in her body. I had this fancy bed as a child that had posts and pineapple finials on top of it. And so I dressed it up with sunglasses and a wig and a hat. And I said, look, Mom, here's my new friend Maria. And her reaction was, you're going to scratch the wood. But one example of my father's humor was that he would like, if he went out, fancier the restaurant, the better. And he would look down at the tablecloth and go, ew, what's that? And he would scoop it up and he would fling it. Yes.
And then we were required to pick it back up and fling it back.
Yes. And so I taught you guys that.
Yes.
And you just sort of had my mother's reaction. Like, oh, people are watching. Well, I mean, at 10, 13.
Yeah. You're embarrassed to be out in public with your parents.
Not with peas through straws. That was okay. Rice spitting was okay.
When it was our own idea, of course.
Spaghetti whirling.
Yeah.
But imaginary.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying we made the right decision. I'm just saying. So the silliness from your father, and your father had very serious roles.
Yes.
I mean, as a pilot in the Army, and then for Pan Am, and then training pilots in World War II, and then you're running a middle school.
Yeah.
I'm sure military training is very important to get you ready for running a middle school.
Gosh, I can't imagine anything more challenging than being a principal of a junior high school.
Right. So he had very serious roles.
Yeah.
And a very serious wife.
Yeah.
But he had a very strong silly streak.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you had a silly streak in you from day one.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that...
I think it's genetic.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. I got it.
In addition to the flinging the imaginary gunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice reaction. What other things did your dad do that you just were tickled with?
Edward R. Murrow had a news program, a talk program, and it was on Tuesday night. A couple of times on a Monday evening over dinner, my dad would say, when's Murrow on tonight? My mother would answer, this is Monday. And he'd go, he really did make the mistake. He thought, But then it became a game. And the game was, which one of us, myself or my dad, could ask the question first? And it started out with me asking right as we sat, right as we started to eat or right as we sat down, and then he would ask it even earlier. And eventually it evolved to, I made a sign that said, when is Merle on tonight? And I hung it on the garage door so that when he opened up the door, the sign would drop down in front and hit his windshield. And when I came in from hanging up the sign, my mother said, "You've got a telegram." And I went and opened it up, and it said twins in a row. And so I left the sign up anyway.
Yeah.
And my dad apologized to me.
What?
Because that was really clever. And he really enjoyed it, and I deserved to win that one. And he was sorry he sent the telegram.
Big Duncan was always so lovely.
Yes.
And you inherited that from him as well.
Oh, well, thank you.
And that relationship just seems so darling.
Yeah.
In the seriousness of life and the seriousness of like the duty and the honor and the, just everything that came with not only the professional roles that your dad had, but then also taking care of your mom, because your mom needed to be taken care of.
Yeah, she did.
Showing up and, taking care of the family and doing all those things, that seems you would lean towards seriousness.
Yeah.
But he always had that silliness that
he sure did.
That would come out.
Yeah.
Do you? One of the questions I ask is around, do you have a framework or a process for silliness? No,
not really.
It doesn't seem like it would lend itself to a process or a framework.
Well, like I said, you gotta choose your silly times. You can't joke when someone's hurting, when somebody's really mad, when something has really gone. You can wait till they have taken a deep breath and then poke them in the ribs, but not, when things are serious, they're serious. And humor helps lighten things up, but it has to be done at the right time. I mean, humor itself is a relaxation. I mean, when you show a Jack in the Box to a baby, the first reaction is startled, and then they realize everything is really okay, and they giggle like crazy. So humor is recognizing the unexpected, feeling a little threatened by it, like, do I understand that pun? And then when you get it, laughing as a relief. And that's a very, very useful tool when you're supporting 5 bosses.
We've talked on this podcast series about the evolutionary advantage of joy.
Yeah.
And joy is different than laughter and humor. But there is an element of vulnerability, of chance, of perhaps maybe making a joke or being silly and having it not be received well.
Yeah.
Where that moment of that vulnerability of picking, taking your shot and seeing if it works, and if it doesn't work with someone, like, okay, well, register that for next time.
Yeah.
But when it does work, now you've made a deeper connection with that person because you've taken that chance.
Yeah. I sort of wrote my mom off after the scratching the wood remark. And thank goodness. I mean,
and what are you going to do with a problem like Maria?
Yeah.
What's the impact on you when your silliness has had a positive impact on someone else?
Oh, it just encourages the heck out of me. Heck, I didn't get a graduate degree in sociology not to be able to define myself and define the situation and work with people to try and understand where they're coming from. I usually manage to get away with it.
But it sounds like it's not only like we'll talk about superhero powers being that it's an extraordinary talent, but it's in the service of others.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of time people will use humor or silliness as almost a defense mechanism, or just to maybe make life a little bit more pleasant for themselves. You seem to be a little bit more strategic about it.
Yeah.
That you're actually trying to make something better for multiple people.
Well, or for toys that are left in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know whether I should identify with toys that are left in the mud. Yeah, some people can be really cruel. Humor can be bitter.
Mm-hmm.
As long as people are happy and smiling or able to laugh at themselves, Humor is a really good tool. I don't know if it's a superpower, but it's a great tool.
So, what is the relationship between your superhero power of
Mhm.
silliness and your purpose?
I mean, I've got a great setup. I got a husband that I love dearly. I've got wonderful kids like you.
Hmm.
So my purpose is to provide joy without being noticed.
Say more
I
about
don't,
that.
yeah, I mean, I don't particularly want to be recognized. I would love to provide things for people to look at and enjoy. It's enough that I enjoy them.
Hmm.
I enjoy making crocheting hats for gals going through chemo. But I looked at the ones that they had, and they just looked like poor me hats. I'm ill. I don't have any hair. I gotta wear something over my head. And so what I make is something with sparkle yarn, bright colors. It's sort of a bucket slouch hat, and put a big flower on side with a glistening, and that gives me joy.
Hmm.
But I think, it says I'm me. I'm happy. I'm going to get through this. And
Yeah, bring a little sparkle
Yeah,
to someone who's going through something that's probably very scary.
yeah. I had a couple friends that went through it,
Hmm.
and my husband Larry asked if I've ever seen anybody wearing them. I said, well, no. And just then, I got a picture sent by a gal who I went to kindergarten with. And I had encouraged her to crochet something for her state fair or her county fair. And she had herself posed in front of this doily she had made. And I recognized the hat. And yes, she had gone through chemo
Wow.
a couple years before, and it was the pattern. I remember I made it, and yeah, okay, that's validation enough.
Hmm.
And I didn't. I mean, she was posed in front of her crochet thing as a brag, so I didn't want to say, "Yeah, but the hat's mine." So, and no, it's silent. I went.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think you want to be not recognized in a public way for bringing joy?
Joy is for its own sake.
Hmm.
If it gives me joy to make it, that's as selfish as I'm willing to be. It would be nice to be famous. No, it wouldn't. It would be hard to be famous because then you have to answer to what you could get hooked into that persona,
Yeah.
and you couldn't roll in the mud trying to get a tire out because that would be, I don't know. I enjoy rolling in the mud. By the way,
There is something about needing the acknowledgement that requires other people to acknowledge you. And so you're kind of your joy is now dependent on other people.
That's right. I hadn't thought of that way, but
And now you're creating your own joy.
Yeah. Life's too short to wait for others to recognize you.
That is lovely.
Yeah.
That's really interesting because one of my needs I have found is acknowledgement from others.
Cool, go get it.
Well, but to your point, you're not in control of that. You have to. Was that my point? Who gets acknowledgement for the? Anyway, one of us said that the acknowledgement is required on other people noticing and then saying something. And I think there is something about the acknowledgement, if it's required to get from other people, you're now putting your joy at risk of not being acknowledged, whereas the joy should, if it comes from within, potentially that's a more sustainable source of joy, but it's also maybe more authentic.
I'm just embarrassed by things that come from without. I mean, I like the fact that my photo.
I'm sorry. I'm just kind of shocked. Like, after 55 years of hanging out with you, I didn't know you got embarrassed.
Oh. Well,
what does embarrass you? The flinger of imaginary gunk in fancy restaurants.
No.
Going out and getting in waist deep mud, pulling out tires, and then going out to dinner Like you don't. It doesn't seem like there's many things that do embarrass you. And maybe actually that's the benefit of if joy comes from within. Maybe just like if joy comes from outside and you need that sense of acknowledgement for joy, maybe the embarrassment only comes from within and it's not what other people think. Like maybe you're immune to what other people think, and it's like you're just going off your own internal diagnostics.
Yeah, actually, what does embarrass me is when people express themselves, even if it's positive.
If someone's giving you
good
accolades.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. You must hate Facebook then.
Oh, no. That's different. It's in person.
Yeah, okay.
I am actually kind of shy, except that I can turn it on if I have to. I remember I was getting an award one time, and the speaker was, and I kept saying, yeah, but. Yeah, but that didn't turn out right.
You're rebutting the public accolades.
Yeah. I sort of prefer to remain hidden and quiet. I do have some friends, and I go out to lunch with them, but being on for an hour and a half is a little hard. And I can be me around you.
Are you trying to tell me it's time to wrap up the podcast?
No, it's just me and you. I love you. I trust you.
Oh, I love you too.
Oh, good. But, I trust you, and it's fine. I know you're going to love me, even if I do roll in the mud. But...
so far, so good.
Yeah.
Speaking of, you were talking about how I might have had more of the reactions of your mother when you're doing the imaginary gunk throwing, flicking in restaurants. There was, this is going back 40 years ago, where you actually had a bumper sticker on your car that said, I'd rather be mud wrestling.
Yeah, that was very appropriate.
Well, that was definitely foreshadowing. You wrestling with tires and hoses and other things you pull out of the marsh.
Yeah.
Any interesting reactions as you were driving around with that bumper sticker on your car?
Well, I did go to a job interview. The guy interviewed me, and he seemed to like me. And he said, we can offer. It was, a part-time job. I just wanted to be home and do Cub Scouts or whatever. It's a part-time job. And as I was walking out, he says, by the way, that car in the parking lot with the bumper sticker about mud wrestling, is that yours?
This was Ed?
Yeah. And I said, yeah. But you guys gave it to me. We were driving around and seeing cars that all had bumper stickers on them.
I'd rather be golfing, or I'd rather be sailing.
Yeah, bragging golf. Yeah. And so we tried to come up with the most negative thing, and you guys one of us came up with mud wrestling.
We're going back.
Yeah.
Like it is at least 40 years.
Yeah.
So I don't remember who came up with it. I thought it was you that came up with it. But yeah, I love sort of like a little bit of like anti-establishment, like
definitely.
as a thumb in the eye of I'd rather be golfing or sailing or riding my horse or not to yuck other people's yums.
Oh, why not? Yeah. And so you gave it to me for my birthday, and so I had to put it on the bumper.
Yeah. So what do you know to be true about silliness?
It's a great way to get people to relax. It's a great way to get people to hear you. One of the things that people, especially if they're defensive or they're trying to present something about themselves that they're worried you will not accept, it really relieves tension. And if you are silly, then others don't feel they have to impress as much.
What have you come to learn that you used to believe is true about silliness that's not true anymore?
I think I've kind of honed in the skill so that I don't run into obstacles very often. It requires some thinking so that you're not offensive.
I know you have helped me when at times when I've realized that I needed to have the stick removed out of my tailpipe. So,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I helped. I certainly wanted to be helpful as a parent, and more by demonstration than by ruling. And I think I did a really good job.
Well, with at least one of us.
Yes. Yeah, Tom, I'm still working on.
I think Tom's actually a little more silly than I am.
He can be.
Yeah, he hides it.
Yeah.
I think in his day job he hides it pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm more like I might have got more of your mom's genes, because there's times when I'm embarrassed by him when he's being a little silly in public. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So he's
For
definitely
both of you.
well, right. Those are the moments that I might be feeling embarrassment, but I'm also feeling the stick in my.
It's there. Okay, that's good.
Like when Tom was learning how to drive, it was okay. What are we going to go do? And let's go find something new to explore. And then there's a serendipity to a lot of those days, and we could end up, in Half Moon Bay, or we could end up, windsurfing someplace with very little skill.
Yeah.
and it was more wind slapping because the sail would knock our asses off the board.
Yeah. You guys were fun. I enjoyed being able to be home and playing with you and stuff. You guys were fun.
When we weren't fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, in those rare moments when we weren't fighting. Yeah, love that.
That's growing up. I wish, I had been an only child, and I really missed the kid socialization period because I didn't have brothers and sisters. I wasn't allowed to go to slumber. My mother was really strict. I wasn't allowed to slumber parties or to even spend the night with someone, and so that was really restricting. And I wasn't allowed that. And then I went off to college. It was okay. Go to college. Don't worry about it. And I had a heck of a time my first semester. I had 6 different roommates. Just couldn't get along with people my age.
Yeah.
Until a miracle happened. I was adopted. I was adopted by 6 young women that were finishing their high school senior year while taking their freshman year at college.
Okay.
And they were in our dorm, and they were silly. And they accepted me. They were the RHP program, and they formally adopted me as an RHP JG for junior grade. And my nickname was Junior Grade.
And what does RHP stand for?
Residence Honor Program.
Okay.
And they let me room with them, and they did silly things. Like one girl really was enchanted by Lawrence of Arabia, the movie. And she wanted to replace scenes. Another scene where you put out a candle with his fingers, and the person said, didn't that hurt? And he said, of course it hurts. The trick is not to mind it. And actually, if you take a mindfulness class, that's something they won't quote that, but they'll say, the more you resist pain, the greater you suffer. So we did that, and they challenged me. They said, we want you to go to the library and get the biggest book you can find and see if you can sneak it out past the checkout. So I went there, and I found a Journal of the American Medical Association, 1929 to 1932. It was big. Carried it out, no problem. Got it back. They were very proud. They said, good work, JG, or junior grade. It was great.
You found your group.
Best of all, there were some young men in that group. In another, and they introduced me to a few.
It sounds like trouble.
And one of them was named Larry. And it was for me, it was love at first sight. To go back a little bit, in order to be selected for this program, You had to be genius level, IQ, and you had to be a troublemaker. There's Larry, genius troublemaker, and I loved it. That was that. I married him. 60 years now. And
That's lovely.
Yeah.
In 61 years, you've been laughing ever since?
Yeah.
It's this time of the conversation that I get a little sad because it's about time to wrap it up.
Okay.
But it's also a little fun because it's time for the lightning round. Are you ready?
Oh, okay.
So fill in the blank. Silliness is?
Joy.
Who in your life provides silliness for you?
You guys and my husband, and I have a couple friends that can be pretty darn silly.
Is there a practice or routine that helps you grow, nurture, or renew your ability to help others with silliness?
Rule 1 of silliness is don't give in to routines, for Pete's sake.
Don't follow the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with Larry, and of course with Larry I get to roll in the mud. And he's perfectly all right with that. The thing I gained from the relationship is that he just allows me to be me. And it's fine for me to roll in the mud. It's fine for me to, stomp and pick up trash and be silly.
Lovely. Is there a book or movie that you recently consumed that you would recommend that has silliness as a theme?
Well, anything by Terry Pratchett goes back several years, but Thud is probably the #1 silly book, and it's very good.
Maybe that'll help me with that stick that we talked about earlier. What's one thing that gets in your way of silliness?
Washing dishes. The practicalities of life. There's nothing silly about what you have to get done.
But I have a feeling you make them silly and or fun.
Well, I haven't learned to juggle glasses yet.
No, I wouldn't recommend. That's a steep learning curve.
Yeah.
Especially with a tile floor in your kitchen.
Yeah.
But maybe there's a reason why you've been going to plastic cups.
Yeah.
So you have tried juggling glasses.
Yeah. No.
Well, Mom.
Yeah.
First, foremost, happy birthday.
Thank you, honey.
Thank you for being my mom.
I'm glad to be.
And thank you for taking the time to have this conversation on such an important day.
Yeah.
This has been really lovely for me to get to know a little bit more about you.
Yeah.
To learn some of the sources and the reason why the silliness is strong in you.
Okay.
And yeah, maybe it's helped me with that that stick I got from your mom. Hereditary stick, metaphorical stick in my tailpipe. So thank you.
Oh, you're
so
certainly
much.
welcome, and I love you very much, too.
And I love you too.
Oh, good.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks.
I don't know why are we saying goodbye when we're sitting right here? It makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense in the other podcasts when, we're virtual and we have to say goodbye. But here, it's like high five.
Okay. And that proves it. We're together.
Thank you, Mom, for allowing me to interview you on your birthday. That was very special for me. And thank you for being a loving and caring mom and for letting me know when I might need to get the stick out of my tailpipe over the years. It's been a privilege to be your son. In this episode, we talked about my mom's father, Duncan. My great-grandmother's last name was Duncan, and that's where my grandfather got his first name. I mention this because a few years ago, while doing some internet searching, I found some internet controversy over the family motto. The debate is over the translation of either learn to endure or savor the moment. And based on my mom's superhero power, I think she chose the latter, savor the moment. And I think she chose wisely. The question I'm taking away from this conversation is, where am I being too serious, too wrapped up in the perceptions and limiting beliefs about what's going on, so I'm not able to enjoy the moment for what it has to offer? What Do You Know to Be True is a Three Blue Pens production, and I'm your host, Roger Kastner. We are recording on the ancestral lands of the Duwamish and Suquamish people. To discover the ancestral lands of the indigenous people whose land you may be on, go to native-lands.ca. Okay, Be well, my friends.
I think I put some plastic barf in the boss's car because he left the top down. Well, he didn't know it was me, although he might have suspected.
The fake vomit employee.
Yeah.
Love that.
But he deserved it.
So this is almost like a little bit of like a Robin Hood silliness that you're trying to like help people remove the stick out of their tailpipe by,
Yeah. It's really easy to make green beer. It is really, you just put a couple of drops of green food. It doesn't change the taste, it's perfect. But we did have graduate students in the basement.
not locked up, but
No,
like
well,
clever.
no,
Yeah.
not. No,
When
but
you say you have something in the basement,
yeah,
there's
that's where they put the grad students.
and I remember, 15 years old, joyriding the car, driving around, thinking,
Yeah, that car did gain mileage that I couldn't understand.
yeah, I appreciate you guys going on vacation and learning how to drive in that car. Okay, so fill in the blank.
Phil,
Fill in the blank.